Hello, my name is Hafizuddin bin Yahya from SMK Datuk Syed Ahmad, Kedah. In this video, I will share with you some important notes and answering techniques for SPM poems. First, we will look at the content of this video. You will look at the format and then the difference between word, phrase, and line. Next, we will see the types of HOTS questions. HOTS stand for Higher Order Thinking Skills, or in BM we call it KBAT, Kemahiran Berfikir Paras Tinggi. Next, or rather the last part of this video, I will share with you some study tips. So, let's look at the format. As you may already know, poem questions can be found in Paper 2, Section D, question number 32. Even though it only has 5 marks, but poem questions can be terrifying, scary for some students. But I don't think you need to worry about poem questions. It's not that difficult. So let's see. Poem questions usually has 4 sub-questions, right? So we have question A, question B, question C, and question D. So you see question A, question B, and question C has only 1 mark. And these questions are normally straightforward, and the answer can be found in the poem itself. However, listen carefully, however, recently in SPM and SPM trial questions, you may find HOTS question in A, B, or C. Question asking you why. The answer actually is in the poem, but you need to think a bit. But the answer is in the poem, still in the poem. However, question D is a HOTS question, right? So for HOTS question, the answer must use your own words. You should not quote the answer from the poem. I repeat, you should not quote the answer from the poem because you need to answer using your own words. There are a few things that you need to be extra careful when you are answering poem questions. In poem questions, you will find these words. First is word. Next is phrase. And the last one is line. You need to be very, very careful with this. Word means only one word. I will show you example after this. Phrase meaning the answer cannot be one word, but it can be more, no, rather it must be more than one word. It cannot be one word, but it can be more than one word. But you cannot copy the whole line, because if you copy everything in the same line, it is called line. Right? Let's look at some examples. So here is a stanza from the living photograph. But there she is still, in the photo with me at 3. The crinkled smile is still living, breathing. So here are examples of word. Look at the red ones. She, photo, crinkle, breathing. Okay, those are words. Now let's look at example of phrases. Okay, look at the green ones. In the photo, at 3, the crinkled smile. If you only take photo, then it's a word. But in the photo, there are 3 words there. At 3, 2 words. Okay? So those are phrases. And the last one, look at the blue one. Right? But there she is still. This whole thing is a line. In the photo with me at 3, even though I did not put blue, but this is also a line. And the last one is, the crinkled smile is still living, breathing. If you leave even one word, let's say you leave breathing there, you only take the crinkled smile is still living, then it becomes a phrase. Okay? Oh, before I forgot, here is a little reminder for you. Remember, for questions that ask which line, do not write line 2 or line 5 or line 3 or line 1. Do not write this, only do not, right? Instead, you must copy the whole line as answer. But of course, you can write line 2 and then whatever the line is, line 5, whatever the line is. But do not write line 2 only or line 5 only. Next, we go to the HOTS questions. There are two major types of HOTS question. Now let's look at the first one. The first type looks like this. It will ask you to list down ideas or opinions. In other words, you need to give suggestions. Let's look at some examples. Okay, the first one, or rather, okay, the question. Let's look at the question. There's only one example actually. Give 2 ways to show patriotism. So it asks for your idea. You need to list down your idea. But don't worry, because recent SPM questions will have this in the answer part. Suggestion 1, suggestion 2. So you just need to write the answers. Remember, for HOTS question, do not leave blanks. Answer whatever logical things that pops up in your head, right? Just write it down. If it's logical, if it's reasonable, then your answer will be accepted, right? Okay, are you ready for the second type? Okay, the second type of HOTS question look like this, right? It will ask you to agree or disagree, or it will ask for your idea. Then you need to explain why. You see, there is a difference between this question and the first type. The first type only need you to list down 2 ideas. But this one, it asks for your explanation. In other words, you need to give your opinion and reason. Let's look at some examples. The first example, right, some children send their parents to nursing homes as they get older. Do you agree with their deed? You look here, you see here, the question asks, do you agree with their deed? Meaning to say, this question is asking for your opinion, whether you agree or disagree. So in the answer, first, you must respond yes or no, or agree or disagree. And then you need to give a reason, whatever the reason is. But remember, your reason must be related to your response. If your reason is not related to your response, then you will not get marked for reason. Let's look at another example. Okay, how do you feel about death? Give a reason to your answer. So this question is a bit different, or rather this is actually a bit difficult compared to the first one. The first one, the first answer is only yes or no, agree or disagree. But this one, you need to give an adjective, a feeling, a noun. How do you feel? For example, I feel scared. I'm scared of death. And then what is the reason? I'm scared of death because it is something unknown. I do not know about death. Right? I die, I don't come back. That's why I'm afraid of death. I'm scared of death. Right? So this is the second type of KBAT or the HOTS question. Don't worry, answer everything. Do not leave blanks. You leave blanks, 0. Markers cannot help you. Okay? Study tips. We are finally here at the last part of this video. Right. So are you ready? There are 5 tips altogether. The first one is, you must understand the poem. For SPM, there are 4 poems. In Form 4, we have The Living Photograph, The Charge of the Light Brigade, and then in Form 5, we have What Has Happened to Lulu and A Poison Tree. So basically, you need to understand, doesn't matter in what language. You need to understand the gist, the important thing about the poem, what the poem is all about. For example, The Living Photograph, what is it about? It is about the persona who remembers his or her grandmother. And then The Charge of the Light Brigade, what is it all about? What has happened to Lulu? What is it all about? And the last one, A Poison Tree, what is it all about? You need to know the theme, what the poem is about. Okay, so we go to the second tip. The second one is, you need to know the meaning of every single word in the poem. For this one, it doesn't matter in which language you understand it. If you speak Malay, if your mother tongue is Malay, then if you understood it in Malay, good. If you speak Mandarin, if you speak Tamil, you speak Thai, it doesn't matter. Understand in your mother tongue. Each word in the poem should not be alien to you. It must be something familiar to you. You know, it's no use if you enter the exam hall and you look at the poem and you don't understand what the poem is all about. How are you supposed to answer the poem? Right, so you need to understand every single word in the poem. Okay, are you ready for the third one? It is, for every difficult word or keyword, you must know an alternative meaning in English. How is this different from number 2? Number 2, you understand every word. You know the meaning. Know the meaning of every word in your mother tongue. But this one for difficult word or keywords only. Why? Because in question A or question B or question C, remember earlier we have word, phrases and line, right? Those questions might ask you specific word. They will give you the alternative meaning in English. And then they will ask you, which word in the poem means this? Which word in the poem means that? Let's look at some examples. Okay? For example, in A Poison Tree, the question will ask you, which word in the poem means anger? Now you know the meaning is, the word is wrath, right? Wrath. And then, which word in the poem means wrinkle? This one is from The Living Photograph. It's wrinkle. Here are some other examples you can read on your own. Okay, are you ready for the next one? For the next tip, tips number 4. Tips number 4 is, you need to know what the pronouns in the poem are referring to. In some poems, there are so many pronouns. Some poems don't even have, right? But some poems have same pronouns throughout the poem. But some poems have 2 or 3 different pronouns in the poem, and you need to know each one of them. But what are pronouns? Pronouns are, in BM we call it kata ganti nama diri. If you still do not know until today, oh my god, oh your English. Right, let's look at some examples. Right, so the first one, this is from What Has Happened to Lulu. I woke to voices late last night. So the word I here, the pronoun I here refers to who? It refers to the persona or Lulu's younger sibling. Okay, the second example is charge for the guns, he said. So who is he? He refers to the commander or leader of the army. Ready for the last tip? Here comes the last tip, tip number 5. You need to know the underlying meaning for all expressions. This, my dear students, is the most difficult part. And hopefully you can master this, because expressions can be something very short or it can be something very long. That's why it's difficult. In fact, expressions is something that you cannot direct translate the meaning, unlike tips number 3 just now, right? Number 3 or number 4 is easy. What is the word? Then you know the alternative. But this one, you need to know the underlying meaning. What is makna tersirat behind the expression? Okay, let me give you some examples. One is, let's see, her soup forgot to boil. This is from which poem? Yes, the living photograph. So her soup forgot to boil. What is the underlying meaning? Okay, this line means to tell us that the grandmother has become senile or forgetful. Why? Because she put her pot to make soup, but she forgot to light the fire. Right? Isn't she senile or forgetful? That's why her soup will never boil. Right? That is the underlying meaning. Right? Okay. The next example. Why is her window wide, mother, the curtain flapping free? From which poem is this? Yes, it is from What Has Happened to Lulu. So the phrases her window wide and the curtain flapping free for an unoccupied room. Remember in the first stanza, the persona was wondering, where is Lulu? Why there is nothing in her bed but an old rag doll and by her side a shoe? Right. So for an unoccupied room, an empty room, but the window is wide, the curtain flapping free, it tells us that Lulu has run away from home. Why is it so? Because normally if you leave your room to go somewhere, would you leave the window wide open? I don't think so. I will not do that because many bugs and other things might enter your room and make a mess of it, isn't it? Right. So these are some examples of expression in the poem. Okay. I really this video has helped you to understand poems for SPM and has helped you to understand the format and what poem is all about. Inshallah, God's willing, if I have time, I have the opportunity, I will make other videos for each poem. Right? So thank you. All the best for SPM.